So my roommate, just before we started recording, walked in and said, "There's mold in the hot tub." And I said, "What?" He said, "Outside, in the courtyard, here at our apartment, there is mold covering the hot tub." And I said, "That's insane." And he's like, "Yeah, I saw it on my way to the gym where I saw a bunch of dudes working in the dark." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I went to the gym right next to the hot tub, and there were like four dudes in there with no lights on working out in the gym in our apartment." And I'm like, "What? What kind of Twilight Zone did you just walk into?"
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Attack Baron podcast. Huey and Starbuck. Well, Huey's here with me, and I'm Starbuck. And this week, we're going to be talking about just a few, some minor stuff, just kind of like general state of the game and stuff like that. Because with the big patches coming out and the stuff's been happening, some YouTube videos and stuff like that, just like a lot of things have changed. It's kind of good to kind of get a general sense on where the game is as it relates to a whole, which I think it is trending upward, but I do think some things are going to need to be changed shortly here, and then some other people do as well. So we're just going to kind of talk about it a little bit, and then we'll break down also the new champions, the not the new ones coming out, but the new ones that did come out that we didn't ever break down for you. So we'll go ahead and cover Yone and I almost said Vex. That's not right.
No, it is.
Gwen.
Vex? Oh,
No,
no.
the one that came out,
Gwen.
Gwen. Yeah,
Right, yeah.
Vex
Which
and Warwick are about
actually
to come
leads me
out.
to want to mention, like, we're doing this especially because the game's about to get mixed up again. We're about to have another big patch. We're going to get two more champs. Two that are pretty different, I would say. Warwick, maybe not so much. He's a good AP jungler who's going to have a lot of aggression to him, which we don't really see a whole lot of outside of Evelynn. She gets more for like... There's somewhat similarities there, but not necessarily. And then Vex is a character that is built to counter types of champs that doesn't, like, we don't really have necessarily a type of champ like that in the game right now. So it's just a lot of mix-up happening. So we want to make sure that with all the stuff that has happened, we want to make sure everyone is on the same page, everyone knows what's going on, and so we can like move forward and not be like completely left in the dark on some of that info.
Yeah, for sure. I guess before we get started, how's your ranked week been this week? It's been kind of
I don't
weird.
play ranked this week. There's no way. Drop of a patch, dude, or not drop of a patch. Start of a new season. No way in
Yeah.
hell would I ever even think of hitting the ranked button ever. We did one night, first night. My buddy who hasn't played ranked as consistently was like, "Let's do it. Like, come on." And I'm like, "All right, sure." We lost like 4 games in a row. It just like a crazy disparity between like how bad our teammates might have been, how good they might have been, how good or bad the enemy was. Like, there could be 3 gods on that team and 2 people who clearly don't know what they're doing, but the other 3 are so good that we couldn't even like take enough advantage of it to like it's because our guys were bad too. Like, it's crazy. It's this week is wild. I'm just not even gonna. I tried to do legendary ranked and then I didn't realize it was gonna boot me out if you didn't or that everyone has to climb back into it. I thought you could if once you unlocked it, you were good, and I'm a little bummed that it's not. But what about you?
Oh, I mean, well, I have been ranking, and it has been an experience. I think I'm sitting at like close to 60%, maybe like 58% on the season so far,
Awesome win rate.
which has been it's
Very
been kind of
nice.
surprising. Yeah, but I started actually climbing with Yone jungle, and then
Wow.
also Pantheon jungle. They're just listening to even some of the stuff last week that whenever Bonsai was on,
Yeah.
talking about the champions that are really hot right now, that are the ones that can get basically out of the jungle and into the lanes.
Pantheon
Basically,
is such a fantastic jungler. It is just like he's one that
hmm
you see picked up and no changes happen to him, but I think people get bored of him, and so like he kind of goes under the radar, and then someone just realizes, and then it's just Pantheon jungle all day. So if that's
yeah,
coming back, I'm gonna be furious.
it's gonna be a thing because like he is so early game dependent. Like it's insane. He's like close to Lee Sin. Like Lee Sin is like super early game, and then late game he doesn't hardly do anything. Pantheon's the same way, but Pantheon's a little bit more beginner friendly, I would say, and he has a global ult, which is really nice.
Mm.
So like that, it's kind of one of those things. It's going to be hard to adjust to him at first, but then after you get used to him, it's pretty much like you have to go for early game plays. You have to go for the just the aggressive play style, and if you can get that down, then it's a lot easier to play him. But like if
Yeah.
you're a farming jungler, just go Yi. You know,
Seriously.
something like that. Yi is
Seriously.
terrorizing right now.
He really is. It's we had one get us. We were stomping their whole team all game, and like right before we ended, he just got like a 3-man kill, and we couldn't back in time, and he won. He just went in and won by himself, and we were like, "That's cool." He's been playing terrible all game, and then he can get a triple kill by himself if he spikes enough. It's just ridiculous. Such a dumb champion.
But yeah, I mean, ranked hasn't been terrible yet. There have been definitely like you said, like huge disparities in elo, where like
Yeah.
you'll be playing with grandmasters and you'll be playing with like
We did it day one
platinum.
too, so it
like,
was like fresh.
Yeah.
Everyone was on. We got games instantly. It was miserable.
Yeah, it's because they did that thing where you can play across like a whole 2 ranks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like so it's huge. Like and when everyone resets, like everyone you can play if you get reset to Emerald, like literally you can play with the people who are Grandmaster and were reset to Emerald and Diamond 4. And then like you can play also with like the low Emeralds who are reset to Platinum 4. Like it's huge the gap
They should
that you
really
can play
keep
with.
it like I don't know how hard it would be to program in, but it'd be interesting to have them make a system be more locked down in the first couple weeks of the season. Maybe the chaos is kind of part of it. Maybe that's like an element of
Yeah.
it they kind of like people
It's
who
always
can
fun.
carry games all by themselves or like carry people who are really bad. Like it sifts itself out anyway. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they were like if you're an Emerald, only Emerald players for the first week and a half, or only Diamond, or
Yeah.
only Platinum. Like I would weep tears of joy. Be amazing.
Yeah, no kidding. As far as like housekeeping stuff, I guess we'll go ahead and hit that before we get too far into this. Join the Discord. It's where a lot of the stuff happens for
Or
the
else
Attack Baron podcast.
I
He
will
was threatening.
come beat you up.
But yeah, so come join the Discord. We're planning on hosting a tournament soon.
Awesome.
I don't know, like it's going to depend on some people's schedules and stuff because it takes a lot to be able to stream them and put them together. So
Yeah.
we're kind of like testing the waters and kind of trying to see where we're at on that. But then other than that, we always have friendly fives on Friday, and there's literally just a talk of like maybe not doing Wild Rift for a night and doing something different. So like if we end up doing that, that'd be fun. Just like different stuff like that. And obviously like we still talk about other games in the Discord too. It's not just like everyone exclusively plays Wild Rift, but
Yeah, we got
like
chats for that.
yeah, there's majority of the thing is Wild Rift, but like if you take like a day off and go play some Overwatch 2, we've got a channel that's
If you can get in.
for other games.
Get through that queue.
It is a long queue, but I've actually been playing some Overwatch 2 lately, and it's been fun. Me and my brother, we played the first one, so like, and now he's a Destiny guy, so literally he plays Destiny, but I'm like, I don't have the time for Destiny and Wild Rift, so
That's what I feel, dude.
we settled on Overwatch 2, where it's just kind of like we can pick it up and put it down. And I actually just unlocked the ranked mode, so that'll be kind of fun to get into that some
That would be
eventually.
sick.
But we might even have a night where if I know like we even have a D&D group that's plays in one of our chats.
Oh,
on
is there really?
Saturdays.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, they're in there. So but yeah, so like Wild Rift isn't the only thing. It's the main thing that happens, but it's not the only thing that happens in our Discord. So just come kind of hang out, see if there's a group you can fit into, because like these guys all play Wild Rift, but they also do other things. So it's like kind of interesting to see
Yeah.
and find some people that like the same type of stuff that you do. So,
I think in that
um,
same note, like I'll go to the general chat and talk to people about Wild Rift stuff. Like I'll just like see
mhm,
stuff going on, and then I'll hop into just other channels where I have notifications or ads or whatever, and I'll hop in and be like, this is like this exact same person I was just talking to, but it's like a whole new other group of people that I haven't really talked to in the Discord, and now we're all having a
mhm,
conversation about X thing, and it's fun. It's awesome. It's a very natural way to like get to know tons and tons of people who are also playing Wild Rift. It's really fun. I love
mhm.
it. It's the
Oh
best.
yeah. But other than that, also, Reddit, we've got the guilds, the American or the North America Guild, the SEA Guild, and the EU Guild. So, if, obviously, respective guilds, those are in the show notes. So, like, if you're looking for a guild, want to join up, go ahead and hit those up. Um, Other than that, I don't think there's anything else.
I think that's it.
Um, so, one thing did kind of want to address, I guess, on the podcast, or just kind of like talk about it maybe a little bit, was there's a video going around by I think it's Rift Guides, that basically says that your rank is worthless. And what they're talking about in that video is a thing where the SEA and the EU rank system is now overpopulated in masters and above. It's almost 11%
Wow.
of the top players. So it's huge
In EU,
percentage.
you said?
EU and SEA both are this way.
Wow.
So obviously, like, yes, very much so. That needs to be taken care of, and I'm sure the game being in beta, kind of like,
That's so weird to
it's
think
not.
about.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's not fully released yet, but they do need to get on. I do think that they need to get on it quickly. I do think
Yeah.
they need to, like, just reset everybody. I think would be nice, and just make it to where people have to climb up, because what they were saying was like someone with like a 40 some win percentage was in Challenger, and I was like, just because they had played
Is
enough
that because
games
of
to
the
get up
fortitude
there.
system?
Yeah, yep.
Really?
So there, yeah. So if you kind of go and watch that video, and this isn't the same in NA, because I hit top 1% last season, and I was in halfway through Masters, I think. So, um, whenever you hit Masters, it was like something like 1.2 or something percent of players. The top 1.5% uh generously were in Masters. So, like, it's not the same in the NA. So, like, if you're in NA and you're up there, obviously NA is not like this prestigious uh server to be
Yes, it
on.
is. I'm
Um
good. I'm great, and you can't take that away from me. No, I know what
but
you mean. It's
yeah,
it's not going to be
it's
like a cut above the rest, but I think it does have a pretty
right.
healthy game state, and maybe it's because it's
Yes.
a little slower to
It's
be
still
populated.
right. And it's still competitive here.
Right.
Right. So, like, getting up there is still competitive in NA, because you're competing with some of the best people on the NA servers, which is nice. I will say, like, it's been nice. And obviously, like, the SEA and the EU are like 2 or 3 seasons ahead of us. So, like, they had season 0, 1, and 2. And I think we started on 2, maybe. I'm not exactly sure on that, when the NA ranked actually came to NA, when the game came, if how many seasons we were behind, but, like, so we might see some more heavy populations coming up, possibly, was what they were theorizing in it, but honestly, I don't think so, with the way that they've changed the rank system in between now and whenever they first started. I think it's in a lot better of a state than it was. But I would just say, if you are in the EU and SEA, I'm hoping Riot will hear this, watch that video. It's going around right now, so I'm sure they've seen it. And I'm hoping that they'll do something to where it'll make EU and SEA competitive. Because let's be honest, like, the reason why we play this game is because we like to be competitive.
For
It's not
sure.
just like, it's not whoever has the most time gets the best thing, because they can just play and play and play and play and play, right? Like, we want our ranking to mean something. We want to be competitive with people. So, um, for sure, I want Riot to do something about that. But thankfully, it's not an NA,
For
where we're
real.
still pretty competitive here. So
I will say, there's a culture. Someone who like looks at League's culture on PC as an outsider, it is crazy to me how
Mhm.
massive amounts of it feel like it is almost a casual culture. Like they like playing, obviously, but there's so many
Mhm.
people who get on to do like bits, right? Like they're like, oh, let's try this. Let's do this funny thing. Let's like interact with the enemy team like in this funny way. Like I feel like I see more of that than like a lot of like really hard gameplay. And it's probably because the player base is massive. The player base
Yeah.
is really hard to climb, and it's just been around for a long time, right? So a piece of
Mhm.
me wonders
Right.
if Wild Rift will ever enter a state like that because it doesn't feel like that exists at all. It is all sweat all the time with Wild Rift. Like any video about the topic is more into like how to learn how to play the game, how to
Right.
learn the systems, how to get good. Like it's which makes sense. It's younger and it is like a new game, so
Mhm.
it's interesting. But I really do wonder if we'll ever reach that point of I would think yes because I don't think Wild Rift is going to go anywhere. So but who
No.
knows?
Yeah, and I'm actually ready for some of that stuff to come. Like I want there to be Wild Rift stuff like there is League stuff, like all the people going in there like intentionally trying to tilt their enemy to
Mm-hmm.
win games.
It's more
Like
mind games than the actual
I'm
game.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's I mean, it's a strategy, it really is.
Yeah.
Like um whether or not it works very well, that's up for debate, but I can tell you it's worked on me a few times. Um But uh yeah, I'm ready for kind of some of that more goofy stuff to come out. And like we were talking about a guy the other day who's just like his whole thing on League PC is just that he's not good. He's just like I am not good, but he
Who is
makes
it?
uh I think his name is Rav. I
Rav?
can't yeah,
I've
Rav,
never even heard
RAV,
of
I
him.
think is it. But anyways, he's like his whole thing is like he's not super great at League PC, but yet he
Oh,
still makes
it's a
videos and he
player.
makes
I thought you meant a character. I thought you meant
oh
like
no
a
no no
champion. I'm like I've never heard that name before.
no, it's a player, it's
Now
a
I feel
content
bad.
creator.
Dang it. That's really
But
funny.
but anyways, he's his whole thing is like he's not super great, but yet he still makes good content. And I feel like right now the only content for Wild Rift out there is from the people who are like, top number one, type deal. I'm number one this, number one that, I'm number one Camille, number one,
Right.
just whatever. Just like the top players are the people who are, able to put out content and for it to do well. So I'm ready for some like stuff that's kind of like more funny or humorous type deal to watch. Is just kind of like, yeah, okay, this guy's not very good, but he makes funny videos, so
Right.
let's go
That's
watch him.
hey, that's what I was trying to. That's exactly the niche I want to. I'm just kidding.
You guys are looking for content like that,
Oh,
find Huey
that's
on
just
YouTube.
you just wrapped up my whole personality in a sentence. He's not very good at anything, but he's kind of funny sometimes. Man, people who don't think I'm funny listening on the other end of this are like, "Oh, Huey, bad news, buddy. We bad news." Turns out it's you're O for O. Um, so I
This
want to
line of
hear
work.
about because we're gonna have to get into Gwen and Yone.
Mhm.
Um, I want to hear about Yone Jungle because I haven't even seen that yet. I want to hear your experiences with it and how successful you think it is, and kind of like tell me about Yone in hand like hand in hand with that, I guess.
Okay, so Yone Jungle kind of enters off the precept of having a fast clear and then having CC and damage to gank with. So his clear for level 1 does feel slightly slow. Like it's not terrible, but it is slightly slow. It's slower than what I'm used to in like a Nunu or a Shyvana clear. So those are pretty quick clears. So they're a little bit he's a little bit slower than that. But the thing that gets me is like Shyvana's kind of like this hybrid. She's a bruiser, right? So she's got both. So if she doesn't get in the lead, she just kind of gets rolled over. Versus Yone is kind of this scaling ADC type champ, which can just kind of like if he gets behind, he'll just farm up, and then but his ganks are still good even if he's behind because he has a lot of CC, and then he's got his shadow clone thing where he can just basically go in, do his CC, and get out and not worry about trying to not really be in danger of giving up a kill.
Right.
So the whole thing with the Yone jungle is just the fact, I think for me, the biggest thing for me was just kind of learning him and learning how squishy he is and kind of like limit testing him in a sense. And then also just kind of like learning his clear. I don't think I've actually done it yet, but every time I clear with him, I have the thing turned on where, you know, suggests for you your next skill to upgrade, you know? And
Wait, turn it on. Like, are you talking about like the arrow that goes up over it, or like?
yeah, like the air that goes up over it, and then like one's a little brighter than the other ones.
Oh, I've
It's
never
like,
turned that on. I didn't know that was a thing.
okay, so yeah,
Interesting.
so they kind of got that turned on. So every time, I kid you not, I just tap the S3 for my second one, and that's just his clone thing, which doesn't do anything for clearing, versus I should take his cone. And literally just that thing just throws me off. But I have a feeling, excuse me, um, I literally, with like the exception of that, I feel like he's very easy was very easy for me to pick up and just kind of handle, so to speak. And in the
Yeah,
late game, he is just an absolute monster.
I was shocked
He's
by that
just
as well. I tried him once and was like, oh, I've
mm,
got this. Like, I understand. Like it's all very built around dashing in and dashing out. Like getting in there, doing wacky stuff,
mm,
surprising the enemy with covering a lot of distance, and then dealing all that extra damage on the return. Like that's everything. Like it's pretty shockingly simple and straightforward with how complicated it looks when you don't know or haven't tried him out
mhm,
yourself. Um,
yeah. And he's crazy, like his combos and stuff. Like I was looking them up, and like some of that stuff is very, very like button intensive. Like you in Wild Rift, it's crazy how many buttons you got to hit with Yone. It
oh yeah, I agree.
thumbs start bleeding. I'm
Um,
just like,
it's a
but
lot to keep in mind. Like that's something that scared me off Samira. I've been playing ADC more and more, and I was like, should I
mhm,
try her? And I'm like, I really don't want to. Like, trying to keep in mind of like all the different things I can do between melee and range, like things like that. It's like, well, this is too like no, maybe down the line, but Yone,
yeah,
Yone, I could see being pretty similar in that boat. I mean, I put him down after I tried it. I was like, I get it. I don't want to play this.
yeah,
I feel like overall, I feel like I haven't seen Yones be too much of an issue. I feel like he's. I don't want to say they need to buff him because I don't think maybe the community has the best handle on him yet. That is
hmm
my theory. Um, so I don't want to say he needs a buff, but I don't have an issue with him in any of my games.
yeah. I think he's at a pretty healthy spot right now.
Yeah,
Um,
if anything, my from a bird's eye view, and maybe I'm not playing like the best ones, but it seems like he's a little underpowered, a little bit.
mhm.
I can see his late game
Something,
potential for sure,
yeah,
but it's interesting. It's interesting
hmm
how like even late game, I don't feel like I'm as concerned or worried. Like once I dodge his ult, that I can kind of see what when it's coming. It's like okay, just get out of the way of this. It gives you a pretty good amount of time to move away from it.
right. And that's the
Um,
whole thing about playing him jungle too. Is like if he does that from the fog of war, then you can't see that box.
that's true.
You won't be able to see that.
That's
So,
true.
um, it is kind of interesting coming from the jungle since it's a lot. I guess a lot more to try to consider, and you're also a lot of times having to hit it from the side, so it's a little bit harder to aim. But overall, I think his late game more than makes up for his early game, like that he doesn't have. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't. It's not that he doesn't have it at all, but like he is just lacking a little bit whenever he jungles. Um, but if your team can kind of hold back a little bit until you get at least your ult,
Mm-hmm.
then usually you're sitting pretty good at that point then.
What
So
what I know you said he doesn't have like the fastest clear speed in the world, but like what is his like where would you put it? Like in a scale of 1 to 10 where most junglers are? Like I don't know who the worst would
um
be, but someone bad being 1. I don't.
yeah. Brian Jungle one. Um
Okay, perfect. I love that.
it's a community joke. Someone had
No, it's
a
good.
brand jungle. 1 in 17 brand jungle. Anyways, but Brand being the worst, and then like I don't know, Chevon or Vibe, I guess being the best. He's probably like I'd probably say a 6 on early clear speed, but late game clear speed, insane. Like
Yeah.
literally like 10
Vi
easy.
Vi is so stupidly strong right now. I know that's not what we're talking about, but I just it just made my stomach hurt hearing her name. I hate her. She's so good. And I play control mages, so she's just been terrorizing me lately.
Yeah, she
And I
just
hate
ults
it.
right through all your control.
Just zooms
Uh,
through. Doesn't care.
yeah.
Oh, I hate her.
Who have you been playing lately? Have you still been playing Veigar?
Not a lot of
Um,
Veigar lately. I jump on every once in a
Okay.
while if I've been like losing a few, but
Hmm.
I don't even know if he's the number one spot anymore. I've been playing a lot of Ziggs.
Oh,
Um,
Ziggs.
and I
Okay.
think maybe a
Yeah.
little too much because when I first was picking him up again, like just getting back into it, repracticing, he was like
Hmm.
easily my best champion. I was dominating games, picking up kills, putting out tons of damage, and I think not getting off the champion has hurt my game a little bit
Oh,
because
really?
I'm still performing well. My damage is high, but I think I've gone into a bit of an autopilot with him because
Mm.
my output is
Yeah.
good, but it's not like amazing. My kills aren't racking up. I'm still landing skill shots and taking down turrets well, but like I don't know. It just doesn't feel. I don't feel as good at it as I was. Um,
Yeah.
so I've been jumping onto ADC and playing Varus. Like that's been my go-to lately, and I love him. He's like up there with all of my favorite champions. I'm blown away at how much fun he is.
Yeah.
Uh, tried to take him mid once. It didn't go great, but I saw that you could do it, so I tried, and it wasn't good. I need to give it a go because I've seen a lot of people insist that he's like not the best mid, but viable and a
Hmm.
good like counter pick to some people, and I could totally see that. It just depends on how much roam is needed. I think I'm going in a whole tangent. That's not what you asked, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's been like the state of my mid lately. Um,
Cool.
what has it, outside of Yone, has yours been? What's your jungle been? What's your I guess
Yeah.
Pantheon.
Yeah. Yone and Pantheon, basically. Obviously, still Nunu. Whenever
Yeah.
the I'm trying to get away from tank junglers. It's just, it's so hard to climb with tank junglers because literally you have to rely on your teammates every game.
Mm-hmm.
It like a tank can be very aggressive and very impactful, but really they can't really carry games.
Yeah.
Like there are games where you can just dominate. Like S-rated MVP Nunu is not unheard of,
Have
but
you been trying AP Nunu? I've seen
no.
people trying it in the jungle, and his heal is pretty outstanding. Like if you can,
Is
like
it?
I've seen builds happen that I am just blown away by. I've got a buddy who takes Nunu mid, and he does amazing with him. It is
Really?
fantastic. He starts Snowball, gets Pathfinder, and starts ganking people at level 2. He always takes it first, gets the full first clear, scares them off by doing a
Mhm.
good chunk of damage. It like he'll send me them. He's like, it's consistent, dude. Just hit them once with a snowball when they're not expecting it, and then you zoom off and you help either lane kill at level 2. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's I mean it's a one trick, right? Like you're in.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you were playing a best 3 out of 5, you would not pull that off more than one game. But it was hilarious. I've been cracking up over it.
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't tried the AP Nunu yet. Obviously, like the whole thing for me is like just I've played tanks for so long.
Yeah.
Like literally just like I do a lot of tanks. It's just the thing because like I feel like tanks are very forgiving, and if you've got enough CC to hold them in place for your team to catch up to your gank, because usually that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll go in for a gank, the laners will be late, they'll kill you, and then your laners might clean up, they might not. Um, that's at least that's the way it is with solo queue. Like that's the way I feel it is, and it's hard to communicate that. Like you can say on your way, and they just like don't pay
Yeah.
attention or whatever. But
No
then once
thanks.
you're there, they're like, "Oh, we're coming, we're coming."
Yeah.
So I feel like
And then they get
tanks
a
were
triple kill on
like,
you guys.
yeah, exactly. And it's like I feel like tanks were kind of like forgiving in that aspect, especially ones with CC, such as Ramus and Nunu, where they both have enough CC to where you kind of hold them in place for a couple seconds to let your team catch up. Um, so I've been trying to just kind of like stay away from that now and start getting into some of these more carry champions because I don't like I don't
Losing.
like having to rely. Yeah, I don't like having to rely on my team every game.
Right. No, I
Um,
feel you.
because that just feels bad whenever you can easily hit a streak where it's just like people just int or whatever. It's just like, yeah, it's
A
just
whole
it
list
can
of
just get
things.
hard. So, but yeah, so that's why I've been kind of like trying to steer away from it. And probably this entire season, I'm going to try to stay away from it just to try to kind of hone in on some of these skills. I might try to pick up Riven as well. Um, as just kind of like an early game, ganking, high mobility, CC champ.
She's fantastic too. I haven't seen her a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty surprised because she's still good. She's
Oh
still
yeah.
great.
He's one of those high skill cap champions. I really want to pick up Lee Sin, but like he's way high skill cap,
Yeah,
and like um there he's basically like an early game only champ. Like he's like Pantheon where he just like falls off on the back end. So you have to be very aggressive with him early in order to snowball with him. And that's too risky for me, if that
no, I
makes any
feel
sense.
that.
It's like
Yeah,
all right, I'm placing all my apples into the front half basket, and then after that it's like, well, team, you got to clean up the rest, type of a deal. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
I think
We're
he's
gonna
pretty
at least try
reliant
it
on how
for
squishy
season.
the other team is. I've seen teams that are even
Mm.
behind just make him miserable. Um, which he's so good and people are so good with him. I don't want to say he's just a counter pick champ because he's truly not if they are really good with him. But even then,
Yeah,
like if someone else is really good and can counter, it's gonna work. But yeah,
yeah. So, um, I want to try Gwen too, but obviously with her nerfs coming out, they're just
yeah,
keep nerfing her jungle. It might be a little rough now, but I wouldn't mind trying her as well. I think I've played her like a couple times, and I've been impressed by what she does, but like it does take some getting used to because it's a lot of little tiny bits of damage over a lot of time. So you got to kind of stay on top of people.
yeah. I have I have only seen one Gwen like really show me what the champ is capable of now that she's been buffed a little too much, I would say, because if she gets to that late game, and maybe the player like didn't do the best job of getting there, like maybe he could have gotten there faster. I don't know, but I realized how unbelievably powerful she is against the right team comp. Like
Mm-hmm.
unbelievably hard to fight. Um, it's pretty brutal, but I do think she needs to be tweaked down a little bit. I'm shocked at the jump she made from being like okay to being as potentially strong as she is. It's pretty astounding. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see her in the jungle like at all. I've only been seeing her solo lane since the update,
Mm.
which is crazy.
I mean, she is solo laner, so
Yeah,
and with the big jungle nerfs, I would kind of understand why people have been shying away, especially when Yone is so good in the jungle. So
yeah, no, that
and
makes sense.
Evelyn, my word. Um, but yeah, so I guess we want to go ahead and get into this champion breakdown
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. Um,
Um,
really fast, just while we're talking about like general things, I saw on a YouTube short, I think it was yesterday. Did you know you can change your point of view in the game?
I did not.
I did not know exactly how this works, but they zoomed in on the, you know, up by the map, how you see all your teammates' icons? There's something
Mhm.
you can tap there to immediately go. I think you just tap on their face and you'll immediately go to your teammate and the camera will follow them as if it's your camera.
What?
They were showing it off in a YouTube thing. I haven't tried it myself yet, so
No
maybe that's not the
way.
process of how you do it or what. But I was like, I'm absolutely going to utilize. I haven't played since I saw that, so I haven't tried. But um,
There are so many times I've been sitting in a bush trying to wait for the right moment to gank, but I just like can't get the camera right
mm-hmm,
to get up, just like look up there.
mm-hmm,
And oh my, that would help a lot.
yeah, yeah. Or you accidentally press it. Like I know with Ziggs, if I've tried to like pan my camera, I've accidentally grabbed ult and then let go, and I'm like, well, they know I just
Whoops.
nuked mid for no reason. Cool, love that. Yeah, I'm gonna be testing that out. I should have done that before we recorded. I should have played today, but yeah. For everyone listening, we will confirm next time if that's real or not. I guess.
But yeah, so Yone is kind of like an interesting champion. He does both physical and magic damage on auto attacks with his passive, where basically it says every other attack deals 50% of the attack's damage as magic damage instead. So one attack full AD, and then the next attack it'll be half AD and half AP. So it's kind of interesting. He's got kind of like an interesting little thing there. But another part of his passive is that his crit rate is doubled, but his critical strikes do less damage. So like he only needs 50% crit rate in order to hit 100%, to where he's critting on every hit, which
Mm.
does help fantastically with his clear speed, because after 2 items he's basically got full crit and he's basically doing a ton of damage. Um, and then any extra crit that you go over 100% then gets converted into AD. So at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you get an extra 25%, then he gets 25 AD instead. Which I kind of wonder if, like, if you get another 25% item that does another 25%, because they all do 25%, you know? So it's like, if you get another one, I wonder if it doubles that and then gives you 50 instead.
Yeah, I'm not
That
sure.
would be insane. That would be insane if that actually did that.
I
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, anything that is like a stack, like League is weird about any of their like overly stacking type things. Like
Hmm.
some things do, some things don't, and they're usually pretty specific when they don't. But if they do, like I don't know, maybe the relationship isn't quite the same, and then it doesn't when you think it would. Like I don't know, but I feel like there's a lot of things that I learn about that I'm like, how did I not know that, or assumed they did and they don't, and then someone's like, don't take those
Right.
two items together. So I don't know. It's really I don't know what that's going to be like in relation to a champion, but
Yeah. But then his S1 is his thing, like he does, like Yasuo does, where he basically hits it and it counts as an auto attack. So like if you're building Blade of the Rune King where it does 3 autos, basically you can auto S1 auto, and you'll activate the passive where it does the percentage um damage on Blade of the Rune King. But anyways, you do that 2 times, and then it'll activate his empowered S1, where he'll do, basically he dashes forward in a line, and then he sends out a wave past that line that knocks up enemies. So that's kind of like his, I guess, bread and butter type deal, is like you stack that up before you go into a fight, and then you use that to kind of like some extra CC
that probably
and
helps a
knock
ton
up.
with jungle. In solo lane, does he need to
Yep.
rely on minions to do that, or just team fights?
Yep. Usually he'll do it. He'll stack it up on minions,
Mm.
and then he'll like try to dash forward onto them and do some extra damage there. But then his S2 is called Spirit Cleave, but it's basically, it just does damage in a cone. It deals damage plus 12% of the target's maximum health as physical damage and magic damage, so half and half. Um, it also allows him to gain a shield that scales off of AD for 1.5 seconds. If the Spirit Cleave hits the enemy, it's increased by 100% on hitting a champion and 40% on subsequent hits. So it's kind of like, it's kind of the more people you hit with this, the bigger the shield is that you get.
Mm.
So
With all
uh,
the magic damage that he does have for this, are there any like hybrid AP builds? I feel like I only see crit builds with him, but maybe that's just
yeah,
like where the majority of his stuff is, because his passive also very much lends itself to that. So
right. And I did look into like an AP build for him, and basically the problem that he runs into is that he all of his scalings are for AD.
yeah.
So, and basically then he just does like his every other auto attack, just does half damage as magic damage. So as you build more AD, the bigger your attacks get, the more magic damage you'll be doing anyway. So there's not really any reason to build magic damage. If there were some AP scalings, that would be really sweet. It'd be cool to see kind of what some of the stuff you could probably put in for him. But
Because hats
there
off to the
isn't.
people you see who are making like wacky builds who are clearly new to the game. Like you can tell they went to this thing, they read descriptions, they're like, oh, magic damage. So I should be building up some magic damage. Like people who don't know, I feel like I've seen a
Mhm.
player occasionally who will do stuff like that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not even mad. You took initiative and you tried to do this. Just you got to learn. Like, and
Yeah.
even though it's a really crazy decision they made, like there are times where I'm like, you know what? Very cool of you actually putting in the work to figure this out.
And his S3, Soul Unbound, which is his like, he basically does a small dash forward and leaves a shadow of himself behind. He gains movement speed, and then any damage that he does for the next 5 seconds, whenever Yone returns to back to his little clone, the enemies take 24% of the damage Yone dealt to them as true damage. So that
Tons.
mark, whenever you do that, you mark them basically, and you sit there and you can do all sorts of damage to them. Go back, and 24% of that damage that you just did gets done as true damage after you go back. So kind of like an unexpected thing, like kind of at the end of fights where you just kind of like do all your damage, and then you get out, and you as you're going out, you're doing another chunk of damage to them. So
Seriously.
it's
It
very,
can
very
really catch you
nice.
off guard. And I usually haven't had it like put me in a horrible position until like late game. Like I only had a few games where Yone has like left and then I get chunked down and I'm like, holy
Mm.
crap. I either died or I am a hair away from death when I
Yeah,
thought I was safe. It's
yeah.
crazy.
There is a way, I believe, to extend. Maybe
Really?
there isn't. I was thinking there was a way to extend the duration of it. And it might be just like doing damage to them in dashes. Um, I can't find it here just in the thing. It says that Yon gains 10 movement speed that increases over the duration and marks champions damage with his attacks and abilities. But other than that, because it feels like sometimes it's longer than other times, but maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just crazy. But
No, I haven't noticed anything, but I also don't play him, and I'm sure that's where you would
yeah,
notice. So if you're seeing something, I'm sure there's something. Like, why would your
yeah,
brain pick up on absolutely nothing? I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
yeah, and it might be just a thing where it doesn't cancel your animations and zap you out of things like that. So like at the last second, you can like do a dash and ult, and like it'll let you stay in shadow form until it's over, and then yank you back like directly after it. But anyways, I don't know. I'll have to look into that and kind of see what the thing is with that. But his ult is called Fate Sealed, but it's basically he does a big long line path in front of him where he charges up for a little bit, and then he strikes all the enemies along the path for a good chunk of physical and magic damage.
It's like a weird pseudo Yasuo's. It's like basically
Yeah,
the same
it's
thing.
yeah, well, a thing where like he knocks him up, and actually Yasuo can ultimate off of it, which is insane.
He can Yasuo.
Uh,
He can do it off of Yone's. Oh,
yeah,
because they
it
go up. Yeah, no, that makes
yeah.
sense.
So it's completely nuts whenever they end up on the same team. We did a Yasuo mid, and then I was Yone in the jungle. It was pretty nasty. But anyways, then he at that ult if he hits a champion in that ult, he'll go and teleport to right behind the last champion hit. So whichever one's farthest away from Yone, he'll go right behind them.
Some jokes write themselves, buddy. Some of some of them, like of that had to have been a dev being like, "What if he teleports behind you, kid?" That would be pretty cool.
But if you don't hit anybody, you just go to the end of the path. So it can be a gap close too if you're trying to gap close like some enemy who's super low or something. You just have to debate whether or not it's worth you wasting your ult to do that. Um,
Yeah.
but so that's basically Yone in a nutshell. But his with his whole thing of the crit rate being doubled, it opens up his build to be widely diverse because
Mm-hmm.
he only needs 2 crit items, and he's got 100% crit.
Yeah, which
So
is
then he can
crazy.
build all sorts of other
But he's
stuff.
doing like I mean they compensated by like bringing the crit damage down. But
Hmm.
even then, like that is and you know what? Hats off to them for that because like on paper that sounds terrifying, but they've really created a character to really play with the crit system who
Right.
isn't the most like dominating champion in the world. Like he's good and you don't want to let him do what he's going to do, but he's not going to completely ruin your game if you don't let him.
Yeah.
Really, really tricky to balance that with like crits in any game are just so strong. And any like builds of like roguelikes or anything are like if you can do a crit build, you're gonna win whatever you're playing. So them being able to find that balance, I think, is really impressive. Huge.
Yeah. And with the whole thing of him being like that, where he basically with those 2 items has then 3 extra items that he can play around with. Like I've found like you can pretty diversely build him to do a lot of different stuff as long as the items you build have AD in them. And then also because of his passive where he gets the extra AD, the crits converted to AD, that also helps him be able to, if he wants to, he can build those other crit items, such as like IE, which increases your crit rate damage, which works pretty well on him. It also has a lot of AD. So, um, but yeah, I built a Hole Breaker on him, which was very nice. Anytime you're in a 1v1, you just get insane amount of armor and stuff for him. And the flat AD is great. And then also split pushing. So it's just like all that stuff is great on Yone. So I've been building that quite a bit. Also, the Serpent's Fang, if the game calls for it, it's got a ton of flat AD on it, and then also the shield reduction. So I've been building that quite a bit on him.
Yeah,
But
I've
other
I've
than
been
that,
starting to play with that item as well with some other champs, and it's when you do it right, it's so good. It's
yeah,
crazy
it's
how much
nice.
of an impact it feels like it makes. Um, well, that's sick. No, it's
Yeah.
there's actually some details of that I didn't completely, even after playing him, I thought I kind of had a lockdown, and I have some things to look out for or to counter.
Yep.
Gwen, we've kind of gone into her. Like, I mean, I think like Yone, most people are pretty familiar with this point. But just as a refresher, just so everyone knows like what this champ is bringing to the table, her passive 1,000 cuts, she is doing a percentage of a target's maximum health as she is building bonus magic damage. Like that is kind of the whole thing going on. And she also heals for a percentage of the ability's damage that is dealt. So you're healing more as you do more of a percentage. So kind of targeting maybe tanking your champs in a situation where they can't burst you down or kill you might be an option at that point, like just depending on the scenario, just to get more
Hmm.
health back. Um, she's a strong engager. She uses the dash that she gets, which I don't know why she's not played mid for that exact reason. The dash feels like it's pretty mobile and gives her a good chunk of speed with how tight knit Wild Rift's spacing is with its lanes, like how the map just kind of feels closer together.
Yeah.
Gwen feels like she has great mobility, so I'm kind of surprised that she's not used more or at all in mid,
I was
outside
gonna
of the laning
say,
phase.
yeah, and then with the assassins too, like wanting to be at range and stuff with her. Well, anyways, you'll get into it, but
No, no,
like,
but no, you're exactly right. Like she has a way to
yeah.
shut down range pretty well,
Hmm.
and if assassins get in there on her, she's hitting them with 1,000 cuts. Like she feels like she could do really really well there, and I'm not exactly sure why she's not. Maybe her roam is worse than I'm imagining, but um, so she is using her dash to get into auto attack range, and then how she's dealing most of her damage. She also deals extra magic damage to monsters through the passive, so that's a big
Hmm.
reason why she's used in the jungle a lot,
Right.
um, and makes the clear faster. Her first ability, Snip Snip. I hate reading these. I hate like that. I don't know. That felt dumb coming out of my mouth. Gwen snips her scissors twice, snipping an extra time for each stack consumed. Gwen gains 1 stack per attack hit, lasting a few seconds. Each snip deals magic damage, and the final snip dealing the more magic damage. It's essential to keep an eye on the purple marks underneath Gwen's mana bar. This shows you how many stacks you have. More stacks, more snips, more damage. So a lot of champs kind of use this stack. Like it's kind of similar to Jax, is what it reminds me of. Like you're auto attacking to build up
Yeah.
your gauge, and then using that gauge in a fight. Obviously, it's different because you spend this more, but
Yeah.
uh, it's interesting. And she has
Yeah.
actually, the more I think about it, because of her ring, kind of like Jax's spin of reducing damage, it feels almost a little similar in a way
Yeah.
that I've not really made a connection to till now. Just AP Rady. Her second ability is like the most famous thing she's doing in your guys' team fights. She is putting up a zone that makes her untargetable to damage, or not untargetable. Just immune to taking damage. Um,
Hmm.
just her doesn't affect your teammates. I've seen a lot of people have confusion about that. So if you didn't know or weren't 100% sure, you can target anyone else inside that ring, any monster, anything. Um, uh, this is like it's meant to be used mostly, I think, around objectives. I think is like the idea because she's a jungler. Like you want to make sure it's up. And I don't actually know her cooldown on this. Do you?
It's fairly long,
Mm.
but like I would probably say like 10 or 12 seconds. I'll
Like
double
at
check
level
on it.
one or at level?
At level one, I think it's like closer to 20.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
But
Like you
then
want to save it. Just making sure you have it like exactly when you need it for an objective is gonna potentially change the game for you if their team is really looking to take you out, so that their jungler can safely smite. Um, so keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on your cooldowns. The mist will move to Gwen if she attempts to leave, but if she leaves a second time, the mist will disappear. Gwen also gains armor and magic resist while inside the mist, so even if someone goes inside the mist to deal damage to you, it will be quite difficult for them to kill you. I don't have a hard number on that, the armor and magic resist. Do you know what that is? If you don't, it's fine. I can keep going. I didn't know how significant that might be when she's already avoiding so many attacks.
Armor is Gwen gains 1 plus 2% AP armor and magic resist.
One more time, say.
So it's 1 plus 2% armor and magic resist. So 1 plus 2% of her AP. So it scales with the amount of AP she has.
I thought it was a percentage of her armor and magic resist. I was like, that can't be very high at all. That's crazy.
I know it scales with AP. Yeah.
So by late game, she probably can get a pretty good, decent amount of defense going. That's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Her third ability, Skip and Slash. Gwen dashes and enhances her attacks for a few seconds. The enhanced attack gives Gwen attack speed, extra auto attack range, and deals additional magic damage on hit. The first enhanced attack to hit an enemy refunds a percentage of Skip and Slash's cooldown. Skip and Slash works as an auto attack reset, meaning you can reduce the time between each auto attack when using this ability. You can also use this ability to dash over walks to get away safely, or to surprise an enemy. I didn't actually know that. I didn't know she could go clear walls with that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've seen anyone utilize that. This is the type of thing, though, that scares me off of champs like this from using them. When I start getting into, like, auto attack resetting, I'm like, I am thinking so much about enemy positioning, my positioning. Like, maybe that's why I'm drawn to team fight mages as much as I am. Like, that is, like, where my brain is entirely. Trying to, like, get narrowed in on, like, skipping mechanics and, like, making sure I'm hitting my buttons correctly in that right order. Like, that feels so out of my wheelhouse. It is crazy. Especially when it's something as fast as an auto attack. Like, if you get Nashor's Tooth and are going at top speed and trying to, like, sneak those in, like, that's crazy. And then lastly, her ultimate, which I'm actually glad I'm reading because I've never been able to really figure out what this thing is doing to me, truthfully. Gwen's ultimate has 3 casts, firing more needles each time, dealing more damage. First cast, hurl a needle that deals magic damage and slows over just a second, and applied 1,000 cuts passive to all enemies hit. Oh, okay. So that makes me re-understand how 1,000 cuts works, because I thought it was something that she was building up strictly on herself, not something that she was applying to people. That's really interesting. Note that you do not need to auto attack or hit the ability to be able to recast needlework. Second cast fires 3 needles, dealing more magic damage, and third cast fires 5 needles, dealing even more magic damage. So, are they also the other casts? Are they also? I'm assuming applying 1,000 cuts.
Yep, that's correct. And they all apply 1,000 cuts for every needle that hits. But also the AP scalings go up for each cast. So the first one has an 8% AP scaling, the second one has a 24%, and the last one has a 40%.
So she 40. So yes. Does that apply to the 1,000 cuts, or is that just generally how much the needles themselves are doing?
That's for just the needles themselves.
Okay.
So the 1,000 cuts still is the same.
Yeah. I will say, I feel like her ultimate in and of itself, and maybe this is why I haven't seen it and been confused about it, because I have not seen it do very much most of the time. And I have not thought about her auto attacking being a part of that ultimate afterwards. So, like, when I'm seeing her sweep teams, I'm like, now I know, oh, okay. That's because she applied 1,000 cuts to everybody. And so she can sweep. That's really, really cool. I didn't realize how much of her kit was completely centered on her auto attacks. I knew it was, like, a big part of it, but it's like...
Oh, yeah, just that passive alone is ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah.
So
playing around that ring is pretty cool. In a way of, like, kind of getting close, getting on the edge, trying to, like, avoid damage while being close enough to get your auto attacks off. That sounds actually really fun. I might need to give this a go. I have not tried her. That's really cool. I thought I had a pretty good grasp on her at a face value. I should have. I'm the podcast audience. This is what I hope everybody's getting when we go into stuff like this. Just like little tiny details that completely change your perception of the game or a character. It's pretty cool.
Right. And to be honest, like, whenever I always played against Gwen, I didn't know a lot of this stuff either. But, like, every time that I played against Gwen, I just wait for that her S2 to drop her little ring thing because it's
Yeah.
got, it's only up there for so many seconds. But like, I just wait for that to drop, and then I know I've got a better shot if we try to go in at that point than whenever she's got that ring up. So
Is she immune to like CC and stuff as well inside of her ring? Like if I throw a Ziggs
um
bomb, the detonator one, would it launch her out of it but not do any damage? I wouldn't think so.
no, I don't think so. I think like she just ignores everything.
Hmm.
If it comes from outside of it, like if you go inside the ring, then you can damage her all you want.
Hmm.
But if you're outside of it, I don't think you can really do anything
That is
to
really
her.
interesting. So I wonder if I threw a detonator in her ring and then walked in and then detonated it, I wonder if that would affect. Because I initially started the ability. I don't know. That's so specific to Ziggs. We don't need to like theory craft that. Um,
You go get that close. You go get that close to her and tell me how
yeah,
that
there's
works
no
out for
reason
you.
for me to be. You wait that out as Ziggs. You don't want to be anywhere near here. That was just, yeah, no, not at all. Are there any other items besides Nasher's Tooth that are going to give AP and attack speed? Because I think that's the only one.
No.
That's
Yeah, that's
crazy
it.
to me. I feel like there should be more of that.
It gives you pretty hefty. I think it's like 50 or 55%.
Hmm.
So it's pretty hefty on the that end. And then also there are stuff that's in the physical damage that will give you like just straight attack speed, like crit rate and attack speed. So it wouldn't be completely useless.
Is there
Um,
anything that does attack
but
speed and an effect that she can use in the physical column, like outside of like crit or attack damage? Like, is there anything
mm,
free of that? Not that I
I
can
think
think
it's
of.
yeah, no, I
She's
think it's
pretty
pretty much
limited. She
all.
has to take Nasher's Tooth. It's
Yep.
required.
Pretty much, I think it's in Wild Rift it's going to be a core item. You're basically going to take that and Rift Maker, I think.
Yeah,
Probably Rift
getting those
Maker
heals
first,
back.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing from what
But
I'm reading, the Rift Maker's kind of the go-to. It's like the first, and then you do Nasher's Tooth after, and that's kind of crazy to me.
yeah.
But I guess if you're in the jungle, it's probably on that. Like you're healing more in the jungle because of the Omnivamp.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I can't say for sure. It's interesting though. Yeah, really cool champ. I need to give her a go. I haven't been feeling jungle lately, but if I do, I'm probably gonna do that. I'm probably gonna give her
You
a
can
go.
take her mid. You're good.
I'm not
You
gonna
can
do
take her
that.
mid.
I'm already trying to like force Varus mid. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna try and take Gwen in too. I think that does it for Gwen.
Yep. Awesome. It probably does it for this episode.
Yeah. Real quick
So,
before we go, what are you? I mean, like we were saying before we started recording, it's oh wow, this went longer than I thought. Um,
hmm
what do you feel like with like what are you looking forward to, or what do you feel like is going to be coming? And we've seen some patch preview notes, which we don't. Those change sometimes, so we're not like
yeah.
jumping into those yet. But is there anything you're like nervous for, excited for? Do you think like the champs are dropping real soon? What's kind of the vibe you're
Um,
feeling for this upcoming update?
I'm just ready for Warwick and Vex.
Hmm.
I'm ready to get into the jungle with Warwick for sure. Vex, I feel like isn't going to be that big of a problem. I never really had a problem with Vex on even whenever I played PC. Like she just kind of seemed like
Do
a
you play any assassins at all?
Evelyn and
Oh,
Evelyn and Rengar. But
she's
I don't know.
really good at like the mobility based champs. Like a lot of
Oh, is
dashing
she?
going on, like
Okay.
Akali's and stuff. She just shuts them down so hard. Um,
Okay.
so if you don't play
So
a lot of dashers, then I don't know
mhm.
if it's gonna be as much of a
Yeah.
power
Okay.
spike.
So yeah, that's probably why I don't necessarily feel it. But I'm not really worried about Vex. I do think she's going to obviously you're going to see a bunch of her because she's new. But I would be more worried about Warwick coming out of the jungle at 100 miles an hour than
Yeah,
Vex.
yeah. I'm pretty excited to see it. I hope I don't end up hating him. I really don't because I
Oh,
like
you will.
Warwick. Um, he seems like he's gonna be pretty devastating. Like if he's too weak, they're gonna buff the crap out of him, or he's just gonna come and be miserable right off the bat. I'm
Yeah.
still convinced fully. Halloween, I think Halloween they're gonna drop Fiddlesticks, shadow drop it. No announcement, nothing. I want them to do. I don't want them to tell me he's coming even a little. I want them to on like Halloween do that. I think that would be the coolest thing in the world.
He's just you come into the game, he's just like in the game
Yeah,
wrecking you. You're like, I
no
didn't even know this
event.
champion was in there.
Yeah, just there. And maybe like the icon is just like pitch black and you're like, "What the who is this?" And then you click it and Fiddlesticks pops up on your like selection. It's like, "Whoa!"
He
That
just
would be
like
so
pops
sick.
up over the screen. He's just like comes out of the screen at you or something.
Dude, his
That'd be pretty sweet.
redesign, it like I saw that like right as I got into Wild Rift, and I remember seeing him as a kid when my cousin tried to get me on PC, and I was like,
Mhm.
that is the best redesign I've seen for a character in a game, I think in a minute. Like
I
they
was gonna
took the
say, it's
same
good.
idea and made it the coolest, and then the voice lines and stuff. I hope they really touch that up in Wild Rift, because I think that we're
it's gonna
in
look
general
better.
lacking on the voice lines, but Fiddlesticks are so good. I'm just blown away by them. Anyway, I think that does it.
I'm
I
ready.
don't know why that turned
Yeah.
into a Fiddlesticks rant. He's not. He's dude hasn't even been announced. Let's get in the game. Let's go play
Yeah.
some.
I got
Teach me
some
how to
rank
rank
to do.
again.